Once upon a time, there was a brave knight who set out on a quest to save a kingdom in peril. Armed with courage and determination, he began his journey to a distant land where he would face many challenges along the way. With the help of powerful wizards and a magical sword, he was sure to succeed in his mission. Leaving home was the hardest thing I had ever done. But I was determined to find the sword of courage, and set off on my journey with a heavy heart. I traveled for days, crossing vast plains and deep valleys, until I reached the mysterious forest of the wizards. The trees were tall, and the air was thick with the smell of magic. I felt a chill in my spine as I stepped into the darkness, but I knew I must go on. I had no idea what I would find, but I was determined to find the sword of courage and bring it back home. The giant, humbled by the courage and determination of the knight, had decided to do the right thing and return the sword of power to its rightful owner. With a heavy heart, the giant bid farewell to the adventurers and began the journey home. Despite the sadness of their parting, the knight and his companions knew that the giant had made the right decision and that the kingdom was saved. The giant's farewell may have been the end of a great battle, but the power of the sword had only just begun. The legendary weapon was imbued with immense strength and skill, able to cut through any armor or enemy. It was said that, with the sword in hand, no foe could stand against its wielder. The sword was a symbol of courage and strength, and its power was unmatched. Its strength was so great that it could even bring down the mightiest of foes with a single swing. With this weapon in hand, the hero was well equipped to face any challenge that came their way. After the final battle, the giant's sword was no longer needed. The group of heroes set off on their journey home, weary and exhausted from the long and arduous battle. The journey was difficult, and they were met with many obstacles along the way. Despite the hardships, the heroes stayed determined and eventually made it back to their home, with the giant's sword in their possession. They were proud of their accomplishment, and the legacy of the giant's sword would live on in their stories. The final battle was a fierce one. The giant had grown in strength and size, and the sword was the only weapon that could stand against him. The battle raged on for hours, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But eventually, the giant was defeated, and the sword was victorious. With the giant gone, the sword's power was released, and the journey home could begin. The sword had saved the day, and its legacy would live on in the hearts of those who had fought in the battle. The sword's legacy continued to live on in the hearts of the people of the kingdom. It was a symbol of courage and strength, and it inspired people to fight for what was right. Even though the giant was gone, his sword remained a reminder of the power of good and the courage of those who stood up against evil. The journey continued as the heroes encountered a group of wizards. The wizards were mysterious and powerful, wearing long robes and strange hats. They were said to possess great magical powers, and the heroes were both intrigued and a little afraid. The wizards welcomed the adventurers, offering them guidance and wisdom. After a long conversation, the heroes left feeling more confident and prepared for their next challenge. They had gained valuable insight and knowledge from the wizards, and they were ready to take on whatever lay ahead. The journey to the giant's castle was long and arduous. As the adventurers made their way through the dense forest, they encountered many obstacles, including thick brambles and deep ravines. As they neared the castle, they could see its immense size and hear the thundering of its gates. The castle was surrounded by a thick wall of stone, and the only way in was through a large iron gate. As they approached the entrance, they could feel the magical energy emanating from the castle. They knew they were in for an adventure like no other. The giant's castle had been a daunting task to overcome, but the heroes were determined to find the Sword of Courage. After a long and perilous journey, they finally reached the entrance of the castle, and were met with a magical force field. However, with the help of the wizards, they were able to break through and find the sword. It was a powerful weapon, capable of destroying even the strongest of enemies. With the Sword of Courage in hand, the heroes were ready to take on any challenge that lay ahead. The knight ventured deep into the castle, taking in the sights and sounds of the mysterious place. He soon encountered strange creatures and puzzles, all of which he had to solve in order to progress. He was determined to find the Sword of Courage, and he was not deterred by the obstacles in his path. With each step he took, the knight felt his courage growing, and he was sure that he would soon find the weapon he sought. Upon entering the castle, the adventurers were met with a daunting challenge. The giant who guarded the castle had set a test for them to prove their worth. He presented them with a magical riddle that only the wisest of minds could solve. The adventurers had to use their brains and their courage to decipher the riddle and pass the giant's test. If they were able to complete the task, the giant would grant them access to the castle's inner chambers and the secret it held. After exploring the castle, the adventurers came across an ancient sword. It glowed with an ethereal light, and the adventurers were immediately captivated by its beauty. As they touched the sword, it began to hum with a powerful energy. The adventurers soon realized that this was no ordinary sword. It was imbued with magical powers that could be used to defeat the giant. They knew they had to use the sword to succeed in their quest, so they set off to test its power. The secret that had been hidden away in the castle was finally revealed. The giant's test had been designed to identify the hero who could wield the magical sword and bring peace to the kingdom. The giant had chosen the hero, and it was now time to make the sword's power known. With a wave of the sword, the giant's true identity was revealed. He was the long-lost prince of the kingdom, and the rightful heir to the throne. The giant had to make a choice. He could either keep the sword of power and use it to take over the kingdom, or he could return it to its rightful owner. He thought long and hard about the consequences of his decision. In the end, he chose to do the right thing and return the sword of power to its rightful owner, knowing that it was the only way to save the kingdom.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update from us. We'll be bringing you more exciting stories and videos like this one. See you next time.